Dispatch has exploded onto the market, outselling all of its parent Telltale's previous games like Wolf Among Us and Walking Dead, but it achieves this using Telltale's exact structure with slight modifications. And as someone who's played and enjoyed all of Telltale's games, even the shitty Game of Thrones adaptation, I believe Telltale's narrative-first structure is massively underused, as not every game should be about gameplay, but the immersion of fantasy and story. So let's look at Telltale's classic methods used in Dispatch and how they have and can be improved upon. Now, a lot of these methods have been memed on for their lacking depth, but there's a reason they're so effective. Without gameplay, there is little to distinguish Telltale games from an interactive TV show. The simple band-aid for this is QuickTime events. They add player interactivity even in battle scenes, so the player can never just rest and feel like they're a part of the battle. The issue with this is immersion, as it's broken when you realize it's just window dressing that usually has no effect on the battle's outcome or even animations. Hell, you can even turn it off. Until Dawn fixed this by having actual stakes for failing, with characters' lives or deaths being decided on your reaction time and ability to not move, and then get cheesed by the controller. This also allowed QTEs and choices to affect each other. Bad choices can make the QTEs harder for some other benefit. The problem with more effort solutions is money and time, as the budget for Dispatch's cinematics was very costly, so they decided on increasing the quality of the scenes by minimizing the quantity. These cuts extended to animations of failing, and they maintained the illusion through making the QTEs relatively easy and having combat full of successes and fails to obfuscate any direct contradictions. Dialogue wheels help you roleplay, as you can change the type of attitude your character has to others, or the type of emotional response, or simply just your preferred aesthetic flavor, as it's your power fantasy, such as choosing your move in combat or how you emote in the suit. They also did a good job making what you say accurate to what's being shown. I know, crazy. They also added flavor for replayability, as we're able to get new jokes about the cost of new animations, only new voice acting, which is much cheaper.
I gotta work on this.
All the time, actually.
Bro.
I like to bust after every big bust, and I was pretty successful, so you can imagine.
Sounds like loads of fun.
Similar to Mass Effect's Renegade and Paragon, there are two counters, anti-hero and hero, which decide Robert's ending slide. They aren't indicated as such, which makes the choices feel more natural. And the ability to go bad in any game is a cathartic experience where you can explore safely in the game without the negative real-life repercussions. Fuck that reporter, he got what was coming to him. But whatever you pick, Robert is still a heroic dispatcher who cares about his friends. Like how Shepard will always defend humanity from the aliens, but the methods change. Timing decisions is a good way of not overthinking decisions, mimicking real-life conversations where you can't pause and think it through. A big controversy around Telltale's games is their linearity, contrasting with your actions have consequences. As no matter your choices, the same scenes will happen regardless. This contrasts with an RPG that has compartmentalized quests or zones that exist in a vacuum, making the choices and consequences have minimal overflow to the rest of the narratives. Dispatch tells one narrative, therefore choices that majorly split the story would exponentially increase the game's cost, either reducing the quality of the existing content or simply meaning it can't exist in budget or on time. The end screen percentages are a great way of reflecting on the general consensus choices, making interesting reflections on why most people swing certain ways, and highlights when you differ from the pack. Dispatch turned the classic two-character choice originally from The Walking Dead Season 1, whether to save Doug or Carly, up a notch, making the decision between whether to cut Coop or Sonar have implications on which character we keep on Dispatch with individual quips from them, and decides who turns villain against us. This also makes the MC more culpable for the character's heel turn because they choose for them to be kicked out. There is also the choice whether to pick Phenomenon or Waterboy, a true dichotomy between competence and character. These add unique animated scenes and voice lines, giving a reason to replay, along with the two romantic choices we'll get to later. The major choices in Dialogue Wheel affect most importantly the characters through the dreaded "they will remember that." This can turn most people into a rampant people pleaser if the option of what's correct is too obvious. But does it have any effect? Having a Dispatch roster allows consequences of these decisions made in the narrative to affect gameplay. That's how they fix ludonarrative dissonance. Yay, a complex word. This is shown by kicking Golem out of the meeting, making him refuse to go on calls for you, or revealing your Mecha Man removes Flambe from your next dispatch. This means you have to be careful about the decisions you make if you want an easier time. Thronebreaker shows how you can take this to the next level with decisions that affect characters. Killing them or losing their loyalties means losing them from your deck. There could also be consequences where you get a temporary or permanent stat decrease if a character is maimed. But explicitly in the narrative, there are two major counters, one being the Robert Mentor counter, which decides whether Vizzy gets the good ending where she takes a bullet for Robert, or she kills Shroud herself and takes off. And the Sweet Exit counter, which decides whether Vizzy kisses you in the locker. The RMC is affected majorly by the major choices, such as kicking her from the team, untying her, telling her you're Mecha Man, the theatre date, but also by minor dialogue, like snitching on her or roasting her. Interestingly, there are also points for succeeding or failing in the hacking minigames, in the QTEs within her eyeline, or even sending her to a dispatch location and her subsequent failure or success. This adds weight for every choice without branching the story until the ending, in which a branch takes a very little time to complete. This is a similar thing achieved in Witcher 3, with series ending being based on the choices Geralt makes. This could have been used to branch out into even more types of endings, or even ending slides, but that would have affected Season 2's ability to start the story from one point of time. Releasing 2 episodes weekly, whilst contrary to popular practice of video games, allowed them to build momentum through word of mouth, videos, and speculations. It also stopped the rapid binging, which people characterize as less meaningful because it takes up less space in their brain for a shorter period of time. Telltale used to drop episodes bi-monthly. This allowed time for development and built hype, but it also lost people who weren't willing to consistently follow the journey. This has become more common in TV streaming, with Arcane being released over 3 weeks, with each week bringing 3 episodes, which is an arc, similar to Dispatch's 2 episodes. But whilst this is fundamentally a narrative game, and the narrative quality of Dispatch is enough success, it was by some key deviations from the Telltale formula that made it succeed. Most similar to Tales from the Borderlands, it nails a style of comedy seen in Critical Role, The Boys, Invincibles, and others. This is characterized by humor that leans into witty, high pace, toilet humor, sexual humor, insult comedy, some slapstick, etc. The humor comes from the absurdity of the situation and the found family banter between friends that playfully poke at each other. This can play off the inherent character distinctiveness, which creates a disruption of the audience's expectations, whilst the audience remains secure in their safety. For example, Waterboy puking on the TV screen to clean it, Sonar's Harvard bro mentality of stocks and cocaines, Invisigal's sexual jokes. They are bits that don't rely on random for the sake of random, where characters are consistent, and in their consistent oddness, with the mix in an odd situation and with great timing that the audience isn't expecting, we can have the greatest humour without sacrificing characters and the story. This avoids the Marvel effect, as people are serious when the situation requires it, so the audience takes it seriously. When talking to Invisigal in the playground or the lockers, Robert and her shoot straight, emotionally to the point without turning it into a comedy. They also follow a modern trend to have intentionally awkward scenes where a character doesn't have perfectly witty dialogue lined up. This adds realism and relatability, and the self-awareness of the joke failure is a joke within itself. The great voice acting also substantially helps with this, which links to their choice of voice cast. Having Jacksepticeye, Moist Critical, and Critical Roles, Laura Bailey, Matt Mercer, and Travis, with Hollywood A-listers like Aaron Paul and Jeffrey Wright, not only lends great voice acting and emotion, but serves as advertising in itself, as Moist and Jack are destined to do playthroughs, bringing their immense fan bases to play the game. In addition to interviews with the voice actors, which gets hundreds of thousands of views in themselves. One of the major decisions in this game is between Vizzy and the Blonde Blazer. This follows a classic choice of games, a Western visual novel structure where you choose between them, right? There's no harem ending, just asking for a friend. This originates from the two different date choices and gives a couple relationship scene. I shouldn't have to say why romance is an effective genre. Sexual selection builds it into the biology of the vast majority of the audience members. Romance is inherently highly subjective, shown by the waifu wars and the rage of the best girl not winning. Games can alleviate that by giving the choice between both options, whether it be physical traits, personalities, how they treat you, or even the rom-com subtypes they represent, with Blonde Blazer following a classical love at first sight where she fixes you, versus a long burn romance that starts adversarial where you fix her, or you grow to realize she's perfect the way she is. Either way, you can choose. But overall, the lack of unique scenes between routes, or even common scenes that play out outside of the main plot, makes proper relation building hard, especially with Blonde Blazer, as the main story is Invisigal and Robert's character arcs, as they learn to reject loneliness and that their past doesn't have to define their future. The director's cut of Dispatch coming in the future with new scenes, apparently even sex scenes, which should, if nothing else, add additional fan service, but ideally build romance plotlines back up. Phenomenon's relationship conflict and Blonde Blazer's origin story are promised and never resolved, and this is coming from the Invisigal simp. The interesting gameplay can break up the moments of storytelling, allowing us to appreciate them even more when they do come, resetting our hedonic treadmill. This also exemplifies our job, whilst giving small moments with the characters that help build our relationship with them. The concept, while similar in tone and world to Invincible and The Boys, and being inspired by the This Is Sports World commercials, is still unique. Unlike Telltale's games, it's not based off an existing license, with their methodology being to pump out as many games based on existing licenses as quickly as possible to latch onto already existing fan bases. This high-paced, derated quality, being restricted to a fan base, restricts creativity by handing them already existing characters and worlds, while also being constrained by the canon of that world, which forces small-scale stories that don't contradict existing lore and plot lines. This was evident in Telltale's Game of Thrones and most recent Expanse adaptation, which commercially flopped. as it's a prequel of Camilla Drummer's life. Thus, we know where it has to go, and the stakes can't be worldwide, leading to very low-stake character drama. Dispatch can go city-wide with its conflicts, with absolute creative freedom, whilst not having to pay any licensing fees. The extremely high pace, whilst entertaining and budget-friendly, leaves many parts of the worlds and characters woefully unexplored. Examples of this being Blonde Blazer and most of Z-Team, and even Shroud's personalities and motivations being underdeveloped. I understand they want to maintain a high pace and budget, so the solution is in RPGs, which get around this issue with optional dialogue, meaning questions you can ask them about the characters in the world, or even optional side quests or scenes. I can already imagine all the questions and funny responses I would get from Sonar, all whilst keeping the pace as high as the player wants. These are optional so the audience could skip and just react to main content, and these scenes could use existing animations and still conversations, therefore it wouldn't require any extra animations. Another way to achieve this is in prior Telltale games with walk-around mystery sections based on the adventure game routes, where you could investigate a scene looking at clues, parts of the environment like newspaper clippings, talking to characters, solving problems in the environment to progress. This is perfect to get more information on the world and characters, whilst adding some physical agency to the character. But this system works especially for adventure and mystery games, where you are exploring a new environment, not a static dispatch, unless for special scenes in the suit or even switching POVs to a dispatch member like in Visigow. AdHoc have come out against these sections, echoing what a lot of players feel is boring padding that would be helped by making it optional, such as the ability to roam around the office after dispatch and talking to the different characters to get unique dialogue and flesh them out, whilst being entirely skippable if the person just wants a fast pace. Their role in filling game time has been replaced by the dispatch and minigame sections, which, whilst more fun from a gameplay level, are narratively less interesting and don't add much information about our world and the characters we care about. No one cares about you, Vanderfoot. AdHoc have a Critical Role game set in Exandria coming next, with the potential for Dispatch Season 2, and with Wolf of Among Us 2 in development hell and Telltale Expanse flopping. It will be interesting to see how close they stick to the Telltale formula for these games, or continue to build their own style until I can call it the AdHoc formula. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll love my video on how Fallout mastered multiple perspectives. And if you enjoyed it, I would appreciate a like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching.